everyone and welcome along. Today is the first day this year that we're doing some Christmas card designs. So this session for you, I've got this lovely Scandi Christmas card design, which is a wonderful tutorial because once you've learnt this one, you can adapt the skills you learn to create all sorts of Christmas trees in different folk art styles, and you can make them big, small, whatever you like. It's a really fantastic tutorial to do with all the family. You can keep it really simple or really go to town. So grab your paints and let's get started. I'm so excited to get started with some Christmas card designs because it always just feels like it's coming up faster every year. So let's go. We've got a piece of watercolour paper. I always say watercolour paper, cold pressed, 300 gram, the good stuff in terms of thickness, is perfect to be card for card making. So just use your watercolour paper. I have got a piece that's just sort of tucked underneath here and I've scored it already evenly. So my card is about 4.5 inches, so the full piece was 9 inches, and then it is 6 inches high, and obviously depending on what kind of envelope size you've got, that is going to be the determination of what your card size is going to be. So I have drawn with a ruler just a straight line down the middle of my card. I've stopped short of the ends, but essentially it's just to give myself the central line. But the more important line is this one here, which crosses the bottom, is going to be the bottom of the triangle of the Christmas tree. For me, I've done a 3-inch design line that's just crossed at the middle, and then I'm going to just draw a line from the top to the bottom because we need a bit of a structure, a bit of guideline, maybe some symmetry. And what I also think will be helpful is just to mark out some sort of branch positions. So I'm just going to take equal increments because we want symmetry for this piece. And whether that means to you that you want to have lines coming straight out or have them slightly angled upwards, you really want to try and get them matching on either side. So what I would recommend is you have, I've just done sort of 1/2 inches there. What I'm going to do up this side as well is do 1/2 inches, but I think I'm going to sort of start mine about there. And if I can just judge that by eye, hopefully I can get a rough matching line coming down. And that just means that when I just do my little design, that I can get it nice and symmetrical. So obviously whenever we draw curves and things, we always find that it's easier to do it one side more than the other. And what I will also do, it's not necessarily that I'm going to use every single line I've got. Maybe I'll sort of put in a downward branch. So I'm going to just judge this by eye, and then maybe you just have some fun with it, but just try making a concerted effort to keep your symmetry. So a few extra things. I added a little circle at the top and also just brought the trunk down to get a little bit underneath. And you can see that it's quite high up the card, so I'm going to be able to write Merry Christmas underneath. Now, if you don't like drawing, I mean, I'm hoping that you will go for doing your own design, but of course you can always pause the video and take a screen grab. But I'm now going to just fade the pencil lines just that little bit for painting. So I'm just rollering my eraser over the top. And whilst you're doing that, you can think about what colour palette you're going to choose. Are you going to go for a sort of traditional, well, when I say traditional, I guess I'm just meaning traditional to me, the sort of red and green kind of colours, or are you going to go for maybe a complementary colour palette using, say, orange and blue? There's all sorts you can do. I'm just going to keep it quite simple today. I'm going to go for some sort of turquoisey, greeny blue tones that are sort of all based around pine kind of colours. So I'm going to get my definitely dark sap green in there, maybe a bit of Prussian blue. Prussian blue for me has been out in the cold for a long time. I've not used it much, and I'm feeling compelled to get it back again. And a bit of turquoise, I think. So all my greens are very bluey. You could say my blues are quite greeny, to be honest, because it almost feels like we're using more blue. And maybe I'll pop a little bit of sap green into my Prussian blue. There you go. And then on the other side, I think I'm going to go for some blush pink tones. So that means my pinks in their pure form are maybe a bit acidic, but I like the idea of getting buff titanium in there, yellow ochre, and just sort of softening the pinks, making them a bit gentler. Yellow ochre and buff titanium are great for turning your pinks into blush colours. So get your colours ready, and we're going to start with light layers first. What brushes am I going to use? I want a combination of small and medium, and I think the size 2 brush is going to be a good one. Now, with Christmas coming up and trying to think of gifts for each other, why not, if you know someone, or if you want to give your gift to yourself, the paint brushes are something that it's really good to keep on top of replacing. As soon as they start to go a little bit tufty, I find every few months, I mean I'm painting every day, I find that I want to change things up a bit. Actually I'm going to go for a size 0. I mix my colours and then I change my mind. Okay, so I am going to first actually fill in some gaps. I'm going to do some circles, and just remember that everything you do on one side you need to do on the other side. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your painting. So if we get our basic shapes in, it then means, I think I'll do a sort of teardrop shape here. Basic shapes in a nice dilute colour, and then we let them dry, get our smaller brushes out and do some nice patterns and details, and you'll have a very special Christmas pattern design. This isn't necessarily one that's for multiple replication really fast or anything. I think this one is more about enjoying the process of creating at Christmas, because this one is, yeah, about taking your time and maybe just being a bit thoughtful about the season and what it means to you. Now we've got all those colours in, I'm going to use my rigger brush to start to paint in some of the branches. The only thing with the rigger brush is controlling it as it comes off at the end. I sometimes find that a bit challenging, but otherwise it's a fantastic brush. But I'm very glad I have the pencil lines drawn in there. You could do thicker lines if you wanted. It's just a matter of choice, really. And I'm going to mix up the colours branch to branch. I'm going to keep it different. So my pink colours will have dried, but if you have any sort of interaction with the green and the pinks, just yeah, make sure that things have dried before you start painting on top of one another. And of course at the end to do a nice line all the way up, but we'll get to that. I'm now taking my 4/10 brush and starting to add sort of pine needles or just detail in general to the branches, and you can sort of make different decisions in how sort of thick or bushy or not you want the branches to be, and it is a real challenge to get it completely symmetrical. So I'd say don't worry too much, but just try and maintain a slight sense. Like I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm happy with that. So you don't have to be painting every single pine. It is stylized, very sort of inspired by Scandinavian folk art, of course. And then there may be points where you just want to sort of add in something that you haven't drawn in pencil. That's fine. So just keep working your way up, and I find the size 4/10 brush very good for this. Now I've got all my green in, I'm going to paint in the main trunk, and I've just chosen one of the greens. I've chosen deep sap green, and you could do this with the rigger brush if you wanted. Some people prefer the control of just getting a 4/10 brush and just sort of eking it out down the trunk. You could make the trunk sort of thicker as you get to the bottom, or keep it nice and slender. You could even do your branches that they all sort of come in but don't quite touch the trunk. It's up to you really. Let me see, so I've got it, I feel like it might get a tiny bit thicker and then sort of fan out right at the bottom. But maybe a line there and a line there. Maybe a little something in there. So that's the great thing, you can work it out. Right, so we've got our tree all painted in, and once our branches have dried, we are going to return our attention to the pinky colours, and we want some stronger tones in here now. So I'm going to wake up the alizarin crimson, because I think that's a good colour, a good strong colour for something like this, and maybe even pyrrole orange, that might be fun. And we're going to do some details, and that can be anything you want really. Oh, I can hear my stomach rumbling again. It's always painting at breakfast time. Okay, let's see. So it wants to be a nice concentrated colour. And just keep your patterns simple, because don't forget you need to be able to repeat them on either side. Maybe I'll do something a little bit like a sort of paisley pattern on this one. Just something like that. Repeat on the other side. You could also like outline your shapes as well instead of doing a pattern on them. And that just helps sort of adapt the shape if you want to change it a little bit. Let's get some alizarin crimson. to make sure it's nice and strong. Or what about making them sort of like Christmas baubles or ornaments, as I know for a lot of you it's not baubles, it's ornaments. So there's a sort of stylized flattening to these shapes. I'm not really doing anything that sort of curved to show a 3D roundness to it. It's more about just nice patterns, and then you could always sort of add something extra in there if you want. So I'm really pleased with how it's working out as I go down, and as you can see I'm adding in a little bit extra here and there. The colours I'm using for the accents are alizarin crimson, pyrrole orange and some cadmium orange. Cadmium orange is just quite a nice sort of antidote to the really pinky bright colours. And honestly, I'm just sort of making it up as I go along in terms of patterns, just how I feel, or if something hasn't had dashes on it for a little while, I put dashes on. And also you can mix up the colours that you put onto one item. Anything goes really, but the one thing I do think is important is in places where you've got sort of empty gaps here, when the pencil's rubbed out, like that's very much going to be the shape of your tree. So if you've got some really obvious gaps, you might want to have a think about adding in some shapes. But whatever you do on one side, make sure you do it on the other side. And as you can see, like these are far from perfectly symmetrical, but they are fairly symmetrical. And I think that is the big key to this success of this. I've rubbed out the pencil as well. That's looking really nice. Now for the writing, I think sometimes it just is really nice to do it handwritten. So if I write just fairly, oh, it's a bit far over one side. Maybe I'll do like a little, there we go. That balances it out, I like it. So I find that a size 0 is pretty good. You want to choose a colour. You might want to go down a size, but I find, well, I need to go from right to left with these things just because I'm left-handed. But embrace the imperfection, I'd say. I'm sure if you're right-handed you won't need to go backwards, but yeah, any lefties you might find it is helpful. If I hold the brush this way, I just suddenly find myself running out of room, whereas if I hold it a bit more vertically, it's just a little bit easier. And here is the finished card. So we just fold it up and there you have a really lovely very special Christmas card for someone you want to spend just a little bit more time on this year. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget we have a whole Christmas playlist with years worth of our festive tutorials, ranging from the really simple to the something you can take a little bit more time over, perfect for cards and gifts. Don't forget, people just love to know that you've been thinking of them when it comes to gift giving, so don't think you need to break the bank. The gift of time is something far more precious in my opinion. So don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to let me know how you're getting on with that one, and if you're going to be joining me for the watercolour advent calendar, of course starting on the 1st of December. Okay, see you next time. Bye!